It's so hard to describe dreams. Some other readers have been talking about something that happened to a woman, and she might be in a swampy backyard. Okay, so this isn't a tarot reading. If you just clicked on this, this is more for someone that I had kind of commented to, another reader who was picking up on something, and it reminded me of a dream that I'd had. And every once in a while, I have a dream of someone who eventually ends up getting arrested, and I'm like, oh my, that's the guy. That's the guy. You know? So I'm thinking it's more than just a dream because I didn't recognize the place. I had no context for where it is. So I'm making this video in hopes that someone might be able to give me a clue as to where this place might be, of this house and this guy in this house and this backyard. And down the hill at the end of the yard, in the backyard, on this private property, was a swamp. And then some more woods. And then some more swamp. But in that swamp, in my dream, it's like I was trying to kind of like remote view to see what that darkness was down in there, you know. And I do believe that it's where this man in this house but it was worse than that. Okay, so let me just say this. It's like he was feeding a monster in that swamp. Because my mind as a human being, trying to kind of understand something that I can't understand. So to me, it's beyond. This is beyond alligators in the swamp. This is beyond crocodiles and snakes and creepy crawlies and what is natural. There's something else. It's something else. It's like this man is feeding something dark in the swamp. Like a literal horror movie blood sacrifice sort of thing. Okay, so it's not just, you know, a regular, well, true crime story, I guess you would say. And this man is connected to something else I was trying to investigate at the time, which isn't anything nice, you know, and nothing that would make your day any brighter. So this video is for those with the strong stomach who are also in that line of intellectual questioning anyway, if I could put it that way. But this is, I've only really been, how do I put this? So to narrow down where it could be, it's somewhere in the United States of America that I've never been. I've never felt that, like the spirit of the land or the flora, the fauna, the sound of it, the look of it. And it's the way the land looks. So it's got to be somewhere east of Texas, east of the Mississippi. East of the Midwest. You know, I used to live in Chicago, Detroit, that area, but I've never been east. I've never been south of, let's say, Indiana, east that away. And the closest thing that I saw in a movie, but it wasn't that. See, I'm having such a hard time trying to narrow down where this place was, where this house is. It's on a private property, a woodsy area. It reminds me a little bit of pictures of the Poconos, sort of, but not exactly. And it kind of reminds me of pictures of some of the hollows in the Smoky Mountains, but not exactly. Like more swampy. darker. The trees are taller. Rivers that connect to other rivers that connect to the swamp, which connects to the sea. So it's not exactly like on the swamp. Like I used to date a boy from New Orleans. And so it's almost like I can feel, just because of knowing him and that area through him, that it's north of that. I have been to, okay, I've been to Atlanta, but only, I was just babysitting rich kids in the Swiss hotel, you know. But I feel like that's the closest that I've ever been to this place, but that's not it either. I feel like it's more north of that and more east of that. So the trees, nothing that I could say, oh, it's that kind of tree that I'm really familiar with, but it's a woodsy, like once you kind of drive into it, there's no sun. Like it's almost like where this house is, and I'll describe the house in a second. Did I push play? Okay. It's kind of perpetually in the shadows. But it's not the kind of drapey myrtles that I've seen in pictures of, like the South, so it's got to be more north than that. But south of the Poconos? See, it's so hard to recall a dream, and I wish I could do a better job of this. The weather. It's like normally there would be sounds, like swampy sounds, crickets, frogs, birds, but there's no sound. There was no sound there. It's like even the frogs and the snakes want nothing to do with that. What's in that backyard there? And it's not like mountainy like aspen trees either, so I know that it's definitely west of, let's say, I don't know, the Dust Bowl area. It's very wet, it's very woodsy, and it's very hilly, because to get into the private property, it's, people can't drive down the road. The only thing that goes down that road is this man in the house and the deliveries that come in and the deliveries that go out, which is involved in some sort of, underbelly. I don't want to go there. Okay, I'm going to kind of stay away from everything else he's involved in and just kind of focus on the place so that I could get a clue maybe from someone. But you go into the property through like a gated fence, but the gated fence looks just kind of like normal, and I would equate it to some of the hilly areas in California, Merced area. Once you start going into the hills, to the Sierra Nevadas, if anyone knows that area, a little Mariposa sort of, where there's little roads here and there built into the mountain, okay? So it would be that sort of thing where you would have to know the exit, and you would have to have the key, and it's a regular looking guardrail where it looks like it could be like a back way that electricians would access telephone poles or something. Like, you wouldn't necessarily know that it's a private residence there, but it's a huge property that's owned by this guy in the house. So once you get past the guardrail, it's a very nice road. It's been made, everything beyond that point, from the road to the driveway to this house, it's all top notch. It's not a dirt road. It's not a gravel which maybe was on the outside of that, but you might need to take like a gravelly sort of pothole crappy road, but once you get past the guardrail, it's like rich guy land. You know, really nice roads, maintained. And then about I want to say half a mile in, it would be this house where the road is like this, and there's woods above the road on both sides, and then you get to where the driveway of the house is, and I'm just darkness on both sides, just darkness, no other houses, no other, there's like a minor road that goes a little bit beyond that, but the house is down, like hill. So if this is the road, the house would be about down here. And you go down the driveway. So I was kind of looking at the house from the perspective of the road. So I didn't get close to the house. It was like my spiritual guides were like, no, you don't get any closer. This is danger. This is darkness. This is wickedness sort of thing. So the house itself, it's about like a 2.5 story. And we don't have houses like this out west. Like I've seen in the movies, sort of like, you know, the house from Home Alone, where it's the 2 stories. It's the 1, 2, 3 window, 1 window, door, window, 2 big windows, 1 door in the middle, white house, little bit of a attic. Not much of a porch that you would see, or an overhang or anything. And this man, I could feel him, I could see him. He was in the window, the left window. And so the house beyond the house, it goes down to the swamp in the backyard. So there's woods on both sides of this house, and then beyond that, it goes down to kind of a swampy, dark area, but it doesn't even feel like a swamp. It feels like this dark, almost oily. It's not good. But I felt like there were unalived women and more and kids in there, and it's almost like he'd been feeding this demon creature or something. But you wouldn't know it, and I couldn't see his face. So if I can describe the guy, the only thing I can describe is kind of his shape and the way he feels. And the thing that reminded me of this, because I had this dream probably 10 years ago, was when I was, the Moscow murders. If you know anything about the Moscow, Idaho murders that just happened, that man that went in and unalived those 4 people, if you could see a picture of that guy, he has the same kind of energy. The same kind of energy. Like, it wasn't him, but it's the same kind of maniacal with and I couldn't see his face, but he was a white guy, and he was wearing attire for business, but not the jacket and everything. It was like, and then at night, like it was about 8 o'clock at night, where he was standing there waiting for something to come in, and I didn't get that far because my attention was drawn to the backyard, but his energy was evil. His energy was serial killer. He still had his shirt and tie on, the white shirt and the tie, not the jacket anymore. He had his hands in his pockets, and his shirt rolled up to about here. He had a watch. He kept looking at his watch. The watch was very expensive. The watch was very expensive. The watch was very expensive. It was given to him by whoever he was involved in this. He was a white guy. He was tall. I want to say around 6 foot. He lived there alone. Nobody knows about him. Nobody knows about that place. Nobody knows about the swamp. But he's connected to people that are known to the community for that sort of thing. And he's some sort of a middleman. It's gotta be. Hold on. Person, and I pulled a couple of these while I was trying to remember the area. And it's like, is there a fence around it? No, there's not around the house because you could never get to the property. Questions that could be asking. Was there any rain? No, there was no rain. Was there humidity? No, it wasn't really humid. You know, from what I could tell in my dream, kind of sort of remote viewing this place. Did he notice me noticing him? He noticed that someone was looking, and he was looking out the window because he felt creeped out by my presence. And I think that I was drawn to the backyard because he was like, don't look in the backyard, don't look in the swamp. And so immediately I kind of, you swoop around the back. And it's not a huge drop off from the back of his house, and there's no backyard to really be spoken of. It's not a place with to hang out. There's no tables. There's no real backyard. There's not a barbecue. Okay, you know what I mean? It's just kind of straight down. I want to say about 25 feet to where the swamp starts. A non-maintained, dark backyard that leads to an even darker swamp, but with trees. And it's not rainy, and it's not really humid, and it kind of reminds me of the Poconos, and it kind of reminds me a little of the Hollows. This person who does not have a name. This came out while I was thinking about it. Litterbug. Type of a pepper. Something that comes in a bottle. A message. Music lessons. He might be a musician. Or I don't know. I've got Mozart going on in the back here for some reason today. Yeah, he's a Satanist. He's into, in the truest sense of the word, into the dark arts. Into, feeding the Dark Father and being a part of that. This is someone who's very adept, and they're aware, and they know what they're doing. And this isn't somebody who's going to stop anytime soon. They need to be stopped. Initial illusion. 5 of Spades. Do you see it? Use your eyes. There's a clue in here somewhere. So is the clue for me or maybe someone that's listening? I'm going to pay attention to that. I'll get back to that. What's this? Virginia. I picked Virginia here. I've never been to Virginia, Appalachia, Blue Ridge Mountains. Jamestown was the first English settlement. So a lot of deep, dark, old curses that were brought here probably, Okay, I want to get into that. That could be a clue. Virginia. Is that it? Did I just need to describe this and maybe try and find some pictures to post? Maybe somebody can pick up on something or say, hey, that sounds like this place. Ugh. Yeah, this person's literally in the process of doing dark black magic, and it's affecting the area. It's like, oh my god, I almost throw up. Okay, it's almost like the people can feel like something's happening in that area. But they can't figure out who it is or where it's coming from. This man without a name. Maybe he's unlisted. It's unlisted. Like you couldn't just look it up. You can't just Google it. Something like that. Soccer ball can speak. There could be a soccer field next door, or he's into soccer, but he would call it football because he's into Euro something. Someone who can jump really, really high. Someone who can jump really, really high. Operation High Jump. This is a monster. This is a monster. If anyone has any idea where I'm describing, can you comment below? I think I'm going to leave it there. And to the tarot readers that are tapping into this, let me know if that resonates at all, or if this is something separate. And I'll, figure out my little clues myself. But yeah, bad news. Bad guy connected to other bad guys. Currently, this is happening. There's evidence in the back, in the swamp. All right. I'm going to leave it there. Love you guys. We're all in this together. Bye-bye.